Amanda Cope, who was 12 years old and lived in Rock Hill, South Carolina, was found dead in her bed on November 29, 2001. She had been choked to death. Tragically, her father, Billy Cope, found her, and he was so shocked that he could not do anything else. When the police went to look into it, they found a strange scene and quickly figured out who the primary suspect was. Hi, and welcome back to our channel. If you are new here, please consider subscribing, as it helps us motivate to create more intriguing content for you. Let's have a look at the case with the most insane twists you have ever heard. Billy Cope woke up all of a sudden at around 3 a.m. and he could feel a disturbing noise in his house right away. He thought he had turned off the light in the hallway before going to bed, but it was still on. His wife, Mary Sue, was cleaning offices all night, so he was at home with their 3 daughters, Amanda, Jessica, and Kyla. They were good Christians, but they did not go to church on Wednesday night, like they usually did, because Jessica was having trouble with her math homework and needed extra help to finish it. Amanda offered to help her. Billy said that the 2 girls could stay up as late as they needed to finish the job. Kyla, the smallest, went to bed at 9. After that, everyone went to bed to get the rest they needed. Billy turned on his breathing machine before going to sleep. This helped him control his sleep apnea. Something strange woke him up just 2 hours after he'd gone to sleep. Billy went to check on his girls, even though he was still half asleep. Since Amanda's door was closed, he thought she turned on the hallway light. She might have gotten up to get a drink in the middle of the night. When he opened the door to the other bedroom, he saw his 2 younger daughters sleeping soundly in their beds. He went back to bed, turned on his breathing machine, and went right back to sleep. At 6 a.m. the next morning, Billy was made fun of because his alarm clock was so loud. He told people later that he had dreams about the rapture when he only got a few hours of sleep. In his dream, Jesus returned to take his servant home. Amanda was taken away from him in his dream while he was left behind. She said, "Bye, Daddy," and she left. Still scared from his scary dream, he jumped out of bed to check on his girls. He was so happy to see that his 2 younger daughters were still sleeping quietly in their beds. But he was not happy for long. Amanda's door was stuck because it hit the open closet door behind it. When he pushed his way through the door, he saw something he could not have imagined. Amanda was still on her bed, not moving. When he tried to touch her, she was as cold as ice, and he knew that his worst fear had come true. He wrapped his arms around her and called 911 because he was still shocked. Within minutes, doctors from the fire department were there, but their tools to save lives did not work. Amanda had gone missing for sure. The firefighter Jason Dillon from Rock Hill asked Billy what he thought had happened. Billy said that, because she rolled around a lot in her sleep, she might have choked on her blanket. Soon after, the cops came to the house, marked it as a crime scene, and started to figure out what had happened. The cops wanted to know right away how Billy felt after his daughter died. He seemed fakely calm, and he did not show any emotion. Hundreds of police soon came to the small house looking for clues, but it was a mess and full of the family's things. There were piles of clothes on every surface, dishes overflowing from the sinks, and cockroaches moving around in the corners. Amanda's body was found on her bed, fully dressed, surrounded by her books and the most recent school pictures she had just gotten from the photographer. Investigators found that she had been hit and choked to death during the attack. Her clothes showed that she had been hurt, and there were marks all over her body. The evidence was gathered in hopes that it could help find out who killed the person. As the cops searched the house for clues, they found something else that did not make sense. After checking all the doors and windows, there were no signs that the house had been broken into. All of the doors were locked from the inside. This led the cops to think that the killer probably lived in the house. When the officers looked into Billy's background, they found that both he and his wife had admitted to not taking good care of their children 2 years before. This was the last thing they needed to know. It matched his cold reaction to her death, his strange story about how she died, and the fact that there were no signs of someone breaking into the house. Billy seemed to be the guy that the police were most interested in. They drove him to the police station downtown so that they could ask him more questions. Over the next few days, the officers asked Billy a lot of tough questions. Over the next 4 days, he was questioned for 17 hours. On November 29, 2001, the same day as the murder, detectives talked to Billy for 3.5 hours on the first day of questioning. After the first time they talked to him, the agents were sure he had done a terrible thing. All they needed from him was to be honest. But Billy said he was not guilty more than 650 times on that first day of questions. He told the cops that he loved his girls, especially Amanda, and that he would never hurt her. He said that the only reason he did not hear anything that night was because his sleep apnea machine was so loud that it drowned out all other sounds. The cops did not think this was likely, so they kept asking Billy questions until he told them what he did. Billy, on the other hand, would not admit to doing it. They tried to use his faith against him by telling him that he would burn in hell because of what he had done. They also tried to make him think that the physical evidence they had found fit him, so he would have nowhere to go. Billy kept saying that he had nothing to do with his daughter's death, no matter what they said. Billy asked for a polygraph or lie detector test on the second day when they were getting close to the 4th hour of questioning. He thought it would finally show he was not guilty. Billy's life started to fall apart at this point, which was sad. Soon after starting the polygraph, the guy running the test slammed his hand on the table and told the detectives that they had enough evidence to stop the test. He looked Billy in the eyes and told him that he had failed the test. Billy was in a bad mood. When the police found out about these things, they asked Billy more questions to find out why he had hurt his daughter so badly. Billy slowly started to talk. Billy finally said that he was wrong, but he did not seem to know what he was saying. At the end of the first confession, in a formal statement, he said that he had killed his own daughter, but that would not be the end of it. Billy had told the cops 4 different things by the end of the 4th day of questioning. None of them fit the clues at the crime scene or each other. In one confession, he said he beat Amanda with a broom, but he never said this in any other confession. Some comments talked about a dream, but others either did not mention the dream at all or talked about it in a very different way. The facts in each statement did not match up with each other. Even though Billy was very strange, the spies still believed them to be true. The 4th and last statement was a video reenactment. The police took him back to his house and filmed him as he talked about what he did the night of the murder. Billy said a lot of things that made people think he was the only one who could have killed his daughter. But after these long interrogations, Billy took back everything he had said and told the court he was innocent. No matter what happened, Billy ended up in jail without a bond or bail. It seemed like the investigation was over. It had been a year since the murder. Billy said he did it. So many people, including those who knew him, thought he was guilty. But Billy was now saying over and over that he was innocent. Now, he sent Phil Beatty, a private lawyer from Rock Hill, to court to fight this case for him. Phil says that when he first met Billy, he thought he was guilty. His plan for the case was to try to get Billy to plead guilty as soon as possible, so he could put the whole thing behind him. But when Beatty told Billy about being questioned after the murder, Billy was shocked by what he heard. When the court gave him a public defender, B.J., when Barraclough went to the police station, the police did not let him into the questioning room to see Billy. This was a clear violation of his rights. They had a note that Billy supposedly signed that said he did not want to see his lawyer at that time. When Barraclough said that they could have made him write this note, they just did not let him talk to his customer. His defense lawyer, B.J., did not say anything after his fourth remark. He let Barraclough come see him. When he asked Billy why he had signed the statement, Billy told him that the police had threatened to kill him if he didn't. Beatty could not believe how badly Billy's rights had been violated. But because the comments were written down and signed, he was worried about whether this information would help his case. At the end of 2002, Beatty got a call from the prosecutor's office asking to meet with him. He agreed to meet with them because he thought it was about a deal for his client, though he did not know what they were going to say. They brought him down and told him that Amanda's DNA had finally been tested, and to everyone's surprise, it was not Billy's. Beatty was shocked and happy to hear this because it meant that his client was suddenly innocent and that he had a real chance of winning this case. But what they told him next shocked him even more. He was told that the cops knew within a few weeks of Billy's death that his DNA did not match what they found at the crime scene, but they did not tell him for almost a year. This really upset Beatty. He could not believe that such a terrible wrong had been done, and that Billy's lawyers had not been told about it before. But then he stopped and asked why they were just telling him this now months later. When they gave him the last piece of information all those years ago, they should have known it was not Billy's DNA. He was told that he was getting all of this information now because the police had found his DNA and knew who it belonged to. It is known that the ownership of the aforementioned entity was held by a man named James Sanders. Limited information was available regarding James Sanders' background or prior activities prior to 2001. However, it has been revealed that he had a history of criminal behavior, suggesting a pattern of misconduct prior to the incident. He had just gotten out of jail and moved into the same neighborhood as the Copes 2 weeks before Amanda was killed. He and his family lived in a house just 2 blocks away from Billy and his family. There is no proof that the two guys knew each other, and they would have made an odd pair. His lawyer said that Billy Cope was a white guy who weighed 385 pounds and did not have many friends. He believed strongly in God and wanted to become a teacher. On the other hand, James Sanders was an African American who had just come out of jail. He was a repeat offender and a drug user. In the 6 weeks after Amanda's murder in November 2001, Sanders tried to do or did 4 more sexual acts in the area. In the hours after the murder, when police questioned Billy, he told his lawyers that he was sure he was not guilty. But he was also shocked because his daughter had died in such a horrible way. So, it could have seemed like he did not care about them. He also said that he gave the cops fake IDs to throw them off. He thought that his confessions would not mean anything unless the cops could prove them, and he did not think that any of his confessions were backed up by proof. But in this case, he was wrong because the police were willing to accept his confessions, even though they did not match up with each other or the evidence they found at the scene. Even though Sanders was there the night Amanda was killed, Billy was charged with a crime. The case went to court in 2004. During the trial, both sides tried to show what happened the night of the murder. Billy's lawyers said that Billy had nothing to do with his daughter's death, but the prosecutors found a simple way to explain both Billy's statements and the newly found DNA evidence. They said that the only logical conclusion was that both guys were involved in the crime and did it together. The cops say this is why there was no proof of a forced entry into the house, Billy had let Sanders in and then locked the door behind him when he left. Cope's lawyers said that prosecutors were just putting the information this way to hide the fact that they had probed Cope in a way that was against the law. They said Cope had mental problems and was so upset about his daughter's death that agents were able to trick him into saying he did something he did not do. Judge John C. Hayes also said that the defense could not show important information to the jury because it could cause the jury to make a rational mistake. In the weeks after Amanda's death, Sanders did or tried to do forced sexual attacks, but there was no sign of forced entry. This thing was taken as proof. Sanders seems to have been a pro at breaking and entering because he did not leave much for even the best cops to find. A person who works in the jail said he heard Sanders say that he killed and raped a young girl in Rock Hill. This was another important piece of evidence that the defense lawyer could not show the jury. Usually, courts let this kind of evidence in if it helps the prosecutor, but in this case, it could have helped the suspect, so it was not allowed. Even if people think Billy did not have anything to do with his daughter's death, the courts did not agree. Sanders and Billy were both found guilty and charged with plotting the crime, which means that they did it together. In 2004, each of them got a term of life in prison with no chance of getting out. In April 2009, a group of 3 judges from the South Carolina Court of Appeals said that there was no proof that Cope and Sanders knew each other. This means that the first decision was thrown out. But the Attorney General of South Carolina quickly filed an appeal, and in 2013, the ruling was overturned. The highest court in Cope's state confirmed his sentence. Billy was locked up, even though all the evidence showed that he was not guilty. On February 9, 2017, Billy Cope died of natural causes while he was in state jail. He had turned 53. He was never let out of his jail cell after he was accused of killing his own daughter. We will let you decide whether or not he was really guilty. And there you have it, folks. The terrible story of how Amanda Cope died and what happened to her father, Billy. How do you feel about what is going on? Do you think Billy made a mistake or not? Also, did Amanda Cope get what she deserved? Please leave a comment below telling us what you think. If you liked the video, please give it a like, share it with your friends, and sign up for our channel. Stay safe until the next time, and thanks for watching.